A new series of Silent Witness is in 5 minutes. That's here on BBC One. Now, Malcolm Bruce for the Liberal Democrats responds to the budget.
Well, what did it do for you? Budgets get a lot of attention, but sometimes it's difficult to see what all the fuss is about. If you believe the Conservatives, Tuesday's budget was the economic equivalent of being hit by a meteorite. Sudden, dramatic and disastrous. Well, that's what the opposition always says about the budget. But since the general election, the Liberal Democrats have attempted to bring a new approach into politics, constructive opposition. That means that where we disagree with the government, we oppose very hard. But where we agree, we're not afraid to support the government. And we do agree with some of the things in Gordon Brown's budget. That's not surprising, really, because many of them were Liberal Democrat policies. A code to help keep tax rates stable. Extra support for those on low incomes to find work. More money for childcare. Those are good policies for Britain, and we shall support them. But there is a huge hole at the heart of this budget. The country is crying out for investment in education and health. Because Tony Blair agreed to keep to the Conservative spending plans, Labour simply haven't been able to improve our schools and hospitals. Whatever Tony Blair may say, the budget will not stop cuts in education and has left the health service struggling to stand still. Just look at what has happened to hospital waiting lists. Last October, we told the government the NHS was in a mess. But the Health Secretary, Frank Dobson, brushed our worries aside, claiming that the NHS is better prepared than ever before to deal with the pressures of the winter. Just 4 months later, after a record rise in waiting lists, Mr. Dobson had to admit, "I'm embarrassed. There is no point pretending these aren't bad figures, but it isn't unexpected." Isn't unexpected? This was a key Labour election pledge. Because under the Conservatives, waiting lists had risen to over 1 million people, the highest they'd ever been. Before the election, Labour promised to cut waiting lists by 100,000. But instead, they've gone on rising. In fact, since Tony Blair came to power, instead of falling by 100,000, waiting lists are up by 100,000. That's one of Labour's key early promises, broken. And it wasn't ambitious enough in the first place. We should have a much bolder vision. Why can't we set maximum waiting times for essential operations? Why not scrap charges for eye and dental checks, so that problems can be prevented before they need serious treatment? Why not tackle environmental pollution to improve people's health? And let's look at education. The best way of getting people into real jobs is to give them a first-class education. Yet under Labour, class sizes are getting bigger, not smaller. At present, there are over 1.25 million primary school children in classes of more than 30 pupils. This is what we'd do to give our children the first-class education system they deserve. Commit the money to cut class sizes in all schools now. Guarantee preschool education for all 3- and 4-year-olds now. Improve rundown school buildings now. Invest more in books and equipment now, and scrap university tuition fees now, because improving our education system cannot wait. How would we pay for this? Well, actually, the Chancellor is sitting on a war chest of cash, which he's building up to help him fight the next election. So it's crazy to be sacking a teacher now, who cannot simply be brought out of retirement in 2 years' time, or closing a hospital ward that cannot easily be reopened. Liberal Democrats would invest now. And for this year, that extra money to invest in education and health should come from taxation. 1 penny on the basic rate of tax. 5 pence extra on a packet of cigarettes. Small, targeted tax changes with the guarantee that every penny we raised would go to the services the country desperately needs. Schools, universities and hospitals. Labour's election manifesto was entitled "Because Britain Deserves Better." Tuesday's budget wasn't all bad, but Liberal Democrats think Britain does deserve better. Better schools and a better health service. That is what you've been telling us loud and clear, and we're determined to make sure that this government gets the message.